Hi, everybody, and welcome into a Real News interview. I'm Clifton French with Real News Michiana, and I'm joined by St. Joseph County Councilman, Council President now, Dan Schaetzle. Dan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Clifton.
Dan, lots of things going on with the council, with the GOP. You were recently made the president. Brian Tanner, a Democrat, was made the president pro tem right underneath you on a leadership team, and another Democrat, Katanza Wright, was made the vice president. That's drawn a little bit of ire from the Republican Party here. Tell us, what's going on with this whole situation?
Right. I think that's the question I've gotten most is why. So it kind of goes back to the history we've had on the council since Republicans took over the council in 2023. The first 6 months, I think we worked well together and got some things done, like we closed Portage Manor. We said no to putting millions of dollars into a new homeless center. We cleaned up the health department as far as getting politics out of the health department. But at that point, I began to insist on more collaboration, especially when an abatement ordinance was created by a council member, the council attorney, and another gentleman without collaboration in the creation of it by myself and other council members. And I started to insist on collaboration. And at that point, things kind of fell apart. I was told that I was going to vote the way I was told. I was told that, what they had done was good enough. We didn't need any further collaboration. And I was concerned about the bill in that it gave, tax breaks, up sometimes millions of dollars in tax breaks to corporations without even encouraging the use of local labor. So it's kind of where the break started, I think. I voted against the ordinance and it failed 5-4. I was kicked out of Republican caucuses as this disagreement developed, and I have not been allowed to participate in Republican council members' caucuses for 13 months now.
Yeah, I mean that was a little more than a year ago when they were trying to push through that initial abatement, correct?
It came to committee in March, or I'm sorry, it went to committee in February, came to the full council in March.
Okay.
And then we moved forward, and then solar became the hot issue. And I sent an email to my fellow Republican council members, remembering there was no communication at this point, laying out some things that I would agree with. And they decided to go with, I think something that really doesn't work. They decided to go with some type of, I'm sorry, my dog's distracting me here. They decided to go to just basically say that, well, we're just not going to entertain any ideas on solar for 12 months. Moratorium, basically, is the word they used. To me, just saying, okay, for 12 months, we're not going to deal with the issue. We're just going to say nothing happens, really was kicking the can down the road. And I indicated that. And all the indications I had from them via other sources was they were going to go ahead and move forward with the moratorium. So I reached out to Brian Tanner and I asked him if he and I could work together on some common sense legislation to hold solar companies accountable. We ended up getting a bill passed in July and also in October, 2 bills that do hold solar companies responsible for any damage they would cause to waterways, to tile systems, and also protect homeowners from having to look out on miles and miles of solar panels. So I think we did some really important work there, but I had to do that bipartisanly because my fellow Republicans weren't interested in working with me on that.
There was an issue also with the St. Joseph County Police Department that I reported on, where there were members of council trying to make hay against everybody knows I'm no fan of Democrat Bill Redmond, the sheriff. However, I don't want the police and the deputies to suffer under anybody's leadership. I want them to get the best possible treatment that they can.
Right.
And that was their pay was being politicized as well, as kind of a, hey, we can make political hay out of against Bill Redmond in a future sheriff's race if the cops aren't being paid, if his cops aren't being paid. There's a lot that's been going on that I have not agreed with as a staunch conservative myself. And I think that the public has been misled immensely about what's really going on at the county level.
Well, what you're referring to is the discussion over pay for our county police officers. That was in July, August, September during budget season. I was strongly in favor of giving our county sheriff's officers a larger pay raise simply because we were losing them. We had a huge deficit in not only our police officers on the road, but also at the jail. And so I proposed a higher pay raise for them. We gave everybody else a 4% raise, but I proposed a higher pay raise for them and worked with, again, Brian Tanner on coming up with a package that we felt would make St. Joe County Sheriff's Department much more competitive and therefore be able to keep our sheriff's officers. At one point during the discussions, there was an attempt by my fellow Republicans to go back to 4% for everybody, which would have really hurt us in recruiting new sheriff's officers and keeping the officers we have. But I stood strong and did, vote with the Democrats, indicate that I would vote with the Democrats for the higher wages for our sheriff's officers because we need to do that. We need to be more competitive so that we can keep those officers.
Well, I mean, they were making like $20,000 less than the next lowest paying department in the county. So
in some positions, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, you needed to pay them, or else you weren't going to have any cops. And if you were, they, just weren't going to have the best of the best that you would like to have. So you've been out of kind of the caucus of some of these folks for a year, a little bit more than a year now.
All right.
And I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a distraction.
It's okay.
As well, too. So, I mean, your hand has been forced to work with the Democrats at this point. And so now that the kind of dust is settled, I mean, now you were made the president because because you were able to work with the Democrats. What's going on? I mean, so you're in charge of rules, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You're making some big changes.
Let me explain that because I think this is where another area where people are a little confused. So I'll go from the larger picture to the smaller picture. Republicans still hold a 5-4 majority on the council. And I would say probably 80% of the time I have voted with or higher. I have voted with my fellow Republicans. Then on the committees, we will have committees where Democrats will probably be elected as the chairs. Those elections still have to happen, but Republicans will still be the majority on each committee. Okay. So Republicans will, in essence, control what comes out of the committees. And then on the Rules Committee, which is the fifth committee, there are 4 others, the fifth committee, it is myself and 2 Democrats, President Pro Tem Brian Tanner and Vice President Pro Tem Mark Catanzarite. The 3 of us have an understanding. If we can't come to unanimity on a subject, then it's not going to come out of the Rules Committee. And right now we're working on new rules for the council. That is going very well. I think we're going to have something ready here very soon. We're basically taking the old rules and we're cleaning them up and making them reflect the way we operate today, rather than kind of how the council maybe operated 20 years ago. So, those are the key points. We have not given control to the Democrats. That is absolutely false. I know we've had several elected officials come out and make that statement. None of those officials reached out to me to see what things would look like. I'm telling you right now what things will look like. Republicans have not lost control of the council. As far as what we're going to work on, I think the things we're going to work on are things that we share in common. That's why we're calling it a government of common cause. All of us want to see the business development that we've seen over the last couple of years, which has been tremendous. We want to see that supplemented. We agree that we're going to work on that. We want to see more efficient county government. We know there are areas where our government can be more efficient, where the relationship between the council and the commissioners can be more effective. We agree that we should work on that. We know there are infrastructure issues that we have to deal with. We have road issues we need to deal with. We need to build the Anderson Road Park. Paths are something people enjoy more and more. We need to delve into that and see what's the county's role in path development. So these are all infrastructure issues that most people agree should be things that a county looks at. So we aren't delving way off into one side of politics or the other. County government is really about services, and it's services and business development, and that is where our focus is.
You're forcing bipartisanship.
Absolutely.
We
are going to force bipartisanship. We are going to sit at our general meetings, the ones where we sit in the big room where the public's sitting in front of us. We are going to sit Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, all across the board. We are going to have our members share offices, a Republican with a Democrat. Our committees are going to have a slight Republican majority, but Democrat representation. So we are trying to encourage bipartisanship. As I said, we are focused on issues that, for the most part, we agree on.
Any pushback on that yet?
Of course I have, because, we had, for 13 months, we had 4 council members who, they huddled together before and after meetings and they tried to set the agenda, which was not successful because 4 is not a majority of 9. You cannot alienate or not communicate with 5 out of 9 members and expect to be successful. And so, this was a very difficult choice for me. I had a meeting with 2 of my Republican colleagues in December in a last-ditch effort to find common ground. I brought issues with me, and I was told, don't worry about the issues. We're just going to vote together as Republicans because we're Republicans. Well, that felt a lot like I was Charlie Brown. They were Lucy, and they were holding that football out there for me. They didn't want to talk about the issues. The issues are important. The issues like roads, like further business development, the Anderson Road Park, efficiency in government. Those are the things we should be talking about, and that's what we have to do.
You said that there were, several elected officials who come forward. I mean, I've seen the press release that was put out by Yacom and others. Have any of them reached out to you following the incident involving Joe Lane and your injury and all of that?
No, none of them reached out to me to discuss that. In all fairness, Linda Rogers reached out to me to discuss another issue. But other than Linda, no, I didn't hear anything from any of the others that signed on to any of the letters. I did hear from Tim Wesco prior to him signing on to the letter to let me know that he was going to do that. That, I believe, was Wednesday of this past week. So,
well, that's and I know that you and I asked, but I'm going to ask you this again anyway. So if anybody hasn't seen, they can go to Real News Michigan. They can watch the video, the edited video, because the whole video does not exist because activists had edited it up. However, you were shoved by the current GOP Vice Chair, Joe Lane, during the November 10th GOP meeting. He has since been charged with battery.
That is correct.
So he was charged this week with battery, or this past week with battery. Any comment on that? I know he's refusing to step down right now. That's the word. He's refusing to step down as vice chair, despite many calls to step down.
Yeah, actually, I've been advised to make no comment on that. So, I'm going to let the legal process do its work, and we'll go from there.
Okay. But none of those people, I mean, they lambasted you on that. I don't know who wrote it, who wrote that letter that went out. But I mean, to me, it didn't express how most Republicans and most members of the party feel.
Clifton, I have not read. I have just heard about these letters. I have read none of them. I haven't listened to any radio broadcast where they've spoken. I have not, outside of the 2 conversations that I mentioned, I've had no conversations with them. So, I can tell you this, though, 90+% of the people who have reached out to me have been very positive. I think people want to see things done. And for 13 months, we didn't get things done because 4 people tried to run the county as a minority in the county council. And you just can't do that. That's a recipe for failure. You've got to work with people. And so we're going to do our very best to go ahead and get things done for the county that need to be done in collaboration with the commissioners, the other elected officials. We welcome all members of the council with open arms to join in the process, be part of the solution, not part of the problem. We are going to get things done.
Well, Dan, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and kind of clear the air. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah. I will say this to people who question my values. I will tell them this. I am a conservative. I think my record shows that. I am a Republican, and I have worked hard for the Republican Party in this county for 9 years. Anybody involved knows that. But before those, I am an American.
Yeah. Well, Dan, once again, thank you so much for telling us everything that's going on there. I hope we can do this more often.
All right. Thank you, Clifton.
Right. Hey, you take care.
You too. Thank you.